As architects, we are taught that buildings are forever, and yet they really aren't. Toronto is going through an extraordinary transformation from an almost completely intact Victorian city to one that is going to rival some of the big cities in North America.
I think often as architects, we tend to forget about the material heft and the real impact of what we do on the city. We erect buildings, they exist for a certain amount of time. What happens to that material? We're particularly excited in this park as an index of the development of Toronto. In the last 50, 60 years, to a city that builds 90-story towers in our downtown core. All of the built environment in that area has been raised and shipped out to the spit. So it's a kind of ad hoc dumping ground for the development of Toronto. And so what started out as a barren landscape of, concrete and rebar and telephone poles and the junk of the city has been reappropriated by many, many species of birds, flora and fauna. The pieces of rubble that comprise the shoreline of this park have been eroded by Lake Ontario. These beautifully smoothed bricks that now look like rocks or pebbles that you would find on a beach.
What you see before you here are remnants of buildings, as I said, a visual reflection of what the city is doing in terms of reinventing itself. It's destruction and reconstruction. These are materials that are supposed to last a millennium. And yet, we have on the other side nature's take on that. Nature is never finished. It's constantly rebuilding, and in many ways, that's what architects do. Nature, in a way, is taking the original buildings of Toronto and trying to reclaim it as a natural landscape.
So it's not quite nature, it's not quite a cultural artifact. It's this strange thing that problematizes those categories. There's this dialogue between our role as city builders, the act of building cities, and the forces of nature participating in that symbiosis. The exhibition is called The Weight, which has a kind of dual meaning. It's a physical manifestation of that weight because it shows us the lifespan of our buildings and the actual volume of the stuff that we've built. We have a great responsibility to the city, to our fellow city dwellers. We have to constantly think about the implications of these decisions for how people's lives unfold in our buildings and the city at large.
Destruction and reconstruction and intensification can actually be a very positive thing. It's a very powerful thing to ponder. Rather than engage in the typical way in which architects think about sustainability, we thought it would be more interesting to look at Toronto as a living, breathing organism.